Welcome back, Chip.
Hi, Happy New Year.
Happy New
We're
Year
not
to
allowed
you.
to say it after January 7th, right? I feel like I saw a meme that said you're not allowed to say Happy New Year
Who makes
after
that rule?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
But this
Well,
is the
it's
first time that we're saying Happy New Year to our listeners, so I think it's
yes,
fair.
I
Yeah.
do too. This is the first week back of new episodes on the Velvet Edge podcast. And you just got
Uh-huh.
back to town. I haven't even seen you in person yet. So
I
I feel
know, it's
like
wild.
a happy New Year's is fine to say for
Yeah, it's
us.
still fine. Yeah.
Um,
It's been a year already.
I was about to say, is it a happy New Year though?
I mean, it's a new year.
It is a new year.
Mhm.
I think like as we say this, obviously there's so much happening in our world, but the thing that is going on mostly right now is that LA is just completely under fire and it is terrible to watch. I know you
Ugh,
and I
it's
both have
awful.
so many friends there. You lived there for many years. We both go there often for work. And so it's devastating. I mean, because we know these streets, we know these places. I know so many people who have been evacuated who have now lost their homes. And I said this
Yeah,
to you
me too.
yesterday, but unless you've gone through something like that where you're losing your house completely in a flood, in a hurricane, in a fire like this, I don't know that you can fully comprehend the depth of what it means to lose everything. Do you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I can't wrap my head around it, and, I think, you see the stories, and it's like, there's different reasons why it's catastrophic for people. I mean, you have like, one of the people that I know that lost everything, thank God her now children and dogs she was there, everyone was fine, but, like, she just got married and moved into this house in
Mhm.
October, and everything's gone, like, her wedding dress, like, things that are,
Totally.
like, new
It's
memories,
the
and then
sentimental stuff.
and then you have the 85-year-old person who's been living in that house for 50 years, and they don't have a bill to pay anymore except for
Mhm.
their power bill, and they thought they were gonna die in this house, and now everything that they've known forever is gone, and it's unfathomable to me, and I
Mhm.
feel really helpless because I'm, halfway across the country, and there's nothing that I can really do, and I'm like, "What's my $100 donation to your GoFundMe gonna do for your $3 million house that just went up in
Mhm.
flames?" Because
Mhm.
these are I mean, not to say that everyone that's being affected by this is living in a $3 million home, but the Pacific Palisades, I read today, the average house price there is $3.1 million.
Yeah, and I wanna say something about that actually, because this is one of the things I see on social media that really makes me sick. But just because someone is rich doesn't mean that losing everything is easy and not a big deal.
100%.
And I see that all the time where people are like, who cares about these celebrities and who cares about these rich people? They can just buy a new house or whatever. Fine, maybe they can. However, going through something like this is extremely traumatic, no matter if you have money or don't have money. And
Yeah,
I
you don't know where
think
to start.
well, and, like, my grandparents were like what you said, I think I've told this story on the podcast before, but many years ago, after a hurricane, there was a flood in my grandparents' neighborhood. It wasn't actually completely related to the hurricane, it was just that the river like, the dam broke, and so it flooded their entire neighborhood, and my grandparents had up to I think it was almost 6 feet of water in their house, and so that ruins everything. You lose
Yeah,
everything. And watching my mom and I went down and we were helping sort through everything and watching my grandparents sit in their living room. And it was this living room that they had lived in this house for 40 years. So I had grown up in this house. And it's like
right.
all of the memories. This is before the digital era, too. So pictures and all these things that cannot be replaced are lost. And I remember them coming up to Nashville. We moved them up here and having to buy them things like toothbrushes and sweatsuits at Walmart because they didn't have anything. They didn't
Anything,
have
nothing.
anything. Like, that's
Yeah,
what I'm saying. It's like, we go travel and you think about all the things you forgot in your suitcase, but what about that feeling for good? Like, there is no
yeah.
home to go back to, and I know a lot of people in LA, their retirement is in real estate. It's in the real
Mhm.
estate that they own. That is their nest egg for the future. Like you're saying, if someone had a $3.5 million house, maybe that's what they're gonna sell to then live on for the rest of their life or whatever it is. I just don't
Right.
think that I think it's so flagrant to just be like, "Well, so what? They have money."
Well,
That's so
also
insensitive.
too, it needs to be put into context. The places that are writing about the celebrities who have lost their houses, that is what they do. Their whole business is built on reporting about celebrities.
Yeah.
So if your opinion is who cares, then don't fucking read Page 6. Don't read People magazine. Like, that's the whole thing is built on that. So that's what they're gonna write about. They think their audience cares. And
Right.
I would venture to say their audience cares. So maybe it does not apply to you, but it doesn't mean that you get to be an asshole because people are, I mean, they're still human beings. And
Right.
it's not like they're the majority of the people that are being affected here, you know? Like,
Well, and I also just think that this is just one of those situations where even reporting on the celebrities or the super rich or whatever, it just goes to show these kind of things impact everyone. There is no
right,
one that can get out of this. Like, there's no free ride just because you have money. You don't get to not lose your house. Like, if you were in a certain area, and the hard part about this specific situation is there's so many different fires happening in so many different areas. Like, I think we've seen in LA really bad fires in one area, and this is, like,
right.
seems to be across the board, so it feels like the entire city is burning down,
Well, I
truly.
mean, on the first night of the fires, there were 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts.
Right.
So, I've seen a few videos where it's like, it's like, you wonder how a fire can spread quickly, and it just showed the wind just blowing the embers off of these palm trees.
Mhm.
And,
Ah,
it's the lifeguard stands in Malibu are burning, like,
mhm,
they're by the water across the sand,
mhm,
there's no
mhm.
path for the fire other than via air to
Shooting
get to
things,
them,
yeah.
so, I mean, and it's burning when you've got wind blowing fire like that, it's burning at such a degree
Mhm.
that it's just devastating, there's no stopping it.
Yes, and so I'm gonna put obviously, I always wanna do this where I put places if you do wanna go donate, if you feel helpless, like Chip was saying, and you wanna go donate or try to contribute something, I'll put a couple links in the description of this podcast for you guys if you can't find them. Also, just get on social media. I feel like there's so many posts about it right now, and I know that's obviously, like, in my feed because I'm very connected to LA, but I think you can pretty much find it anywhere. There's a lot of people posting about different places and ways to go help. One of the things I wanna say, though, is because this podcast, like, because of the nature of this podcast and the things that we talk about, and it's on a spiritual level, and I talk a lot about, like, energy, and if you're a very energy sensitive person like I am, I actually think all of us are, but, some of us are willing to maybe tap into that a little bit more at the moment, but I don't know that any of us cannot at this point. Like, it's so overwhelming and so all encompassing because it feels like it's everywhere. The
It's
second you
everywhere.
open social media, the news, whatever it is. And so I do want to, like, also just say take care of yourself through this kind of stuff because it feels like in this moment, and I think for the last couple years, we've just been getting hit from every different angle with all kinds of news, and so pay attention to how it's impacting you. I did see one of the, like, healers that I follow from LA post this, and I thought it was very, very smart of her, but she said, "If you're a very like, if you're an energy sensitive person or if you just wanna do this in general, like, and you wanna try to tap in a little bit more, um, don't overwhelm yourself with social media or taking on what's happening to the people in LA, and this is something I'm very guilty of. I was doing it last night. I was sobbing all morning actually, like, watching videos of people I know in their neighborhoods, also because I can relate. I can very much empathize with this, but she said, "Don't take that on as a way to help us. What you can do is get quiet with yourself and really focus on bringing your energy back to a place of peace and gratitude and sending that energy out into the world." And I thought that was really smart and a positive way that you can help not only yourself, but also, like, isn't that more of what we need to stop focusing on the fear, to stop focusing on the sadness, the tragedy, the fighting, the anger, and start sending each other more love. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. I saw someone share a post that was like, um and I think this was an energy thing, it wasn't as eloquently written, but it was basically like, envision rain.
Mhm.
Look at photos of rain and just envision it and try to cleanse all these, like, horrific images that we've been
Mhm.
seeing because 'cause they're just being thrust upon us now. It's like you
Mhm.
cannot get on social media. I can't get on social
Me
media without
either.
seeing it.
Mm-mm.
And so it's being thrust upon us, and then, of course, it's like if you look at any news site, it's the major headline in the US, and, so it was just like to sort of recenter yourself in a peaceful place,
Yeah.
imagine rain and look
Yeah.
at pictures of rain. So I thought that was interesting.
That and also I think there's so much whether you believe in this or not, I'm gonna talk about it because I fully believe in it, but I do believe energy is everything. I've said this a million times on this podcast, and that Wow. Visualization, that was a tough one for me today. Process that you just talked about can be very powerful because what we are like what we feel is what we put out. And so
Right.
if we're feeling that peace, if we're cleansing our own selves with that water, that's also sending that energy of cleansing, water, positivity, all of that out into the universe. And so it's not going to be bad for LA. Let's just say
Right.
it that way.
Right. Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say is as we move into this new year, it's just interesting because I think for like, what is this? Since 2020, this is 2025, which first of all is bizarre to me because doesn't 2020 still feel in some weird way like yesterday? When
I
I
mean,
say it, I'm
it
like, how did
certainly
5
does
years go
not feel
by?
that far ago. No.
Yes. And so it's just interesting because I think that was maybe the first period of time as a collective that we have felt this, oh my God energy of I don't know, then there was all the, like, Black Lives Matters, all the things that started during that time too, where it was just so much divisiveness, so much volatility, so much trauma all happening at once, and I don't know that we have felt a reprieve from that fully yet, like, I know it's gotten better, but I don't think that I've talked to anyone that feels just like life has just been this easy ride since then. Would you say that for you? I mean, like,
No,
there's
not at
not I mean,
all.
we've definitely gotten a lot back. It's not 2020 anymore, but nothing has felt the same, nor do I ever think it really will. And I wanted to kind of tell you guys a story about this experience I had when I went to Bali in 2020. It was my birthday. It was my 40th birthday, and I had my palm read, and this woman
Mhm.
does numerology, tarot, and then she reads your palm as well. And so she kind of incorporates all of it into your reading. And we did this amazing reading. She was very spot on in helping me with some stuff. And then we got to the end, and I was saying something to her about, I was just like, I just have to be honest. I don't really know what this is, but I just feel this like energy of, I don't know that I even wanna start anything work-wise because I don't feel like we're done yet. And she was like, "What do you mean?" And I said, "I just feel like there's so much change coming that I don't really feel like I personally know which direction to go because I don't think that anything's gonna stick." And she was like, "Well, it's not." And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "We are undergoing" summarizing, by the way, but
Right.
she basically said, "We're undergoing a massive deconstruction to reconstruction phase." She goes, "This is a spiritual awakening for our
Hmm.
world. Like, our world is undergoing a spiritual awakening." And if you've heard some of my stories, and, like, I even posted a video a couple weeks ago on my Instagram where I was meeting with a person talking about spiritual awakening. And I told her about this story where I had been cheated on and canceled my wedding, and it was very traumatic. But it was honestly the biggest gift in my life because it started my journey of spirituality. And she said, well, that's because when we get in those painful places, they're often the catalyst for a spiritual awakening. That
Right.
soul crushing pain is the beginning of an awakening. And I think what's happening now this palm reader really predicted actually a lot of this, which is wild to look back at now, but is a bigger it's a bigger thing. It's a spiritual awakening. So as we're being inundated with this thing after thing after thing, it feels like we're playing a game of whack-a-mole. It's like one thing happens, you put that out, and then another tragedy happens. And she said that's going to continue until 2030, if I'm being honest. That's
Oh
what
my
she said.
gosh.
Well, but I don't think it'll always be like this. But when we're seeing this stuff, what's helping me is obviously I wanna help all the people who've lost everything and who are in pain, and it feels overwhelming because there's so many different things happening that it feels like I can't help them all, you know? But I'm hoping what's going to happen, and I think this will happen in LA, I really do, is that because there's so much loss on such a big scale, we have no other choice but to come together and work as a community.
Right.
And I think that's probably one of the bigger picture things that's happening here is for us to remember what really matters, what truly matters, for us to redefine our values and look in the mirror and say, are the things that I'm focusing on or giving energy to the things that ultimately matter in life? Or if I've lost everything, how do I stay still standing? What is this making me like look at and all of that stuff? And I'm not saying any of this stuff to be insensitive to the pain that must be felt first or the loss, like, I understand. I'm not at all trying to skip over that. But
Right.
I'm just asking, what are we supposed to be learning here? Because I think that on a bigger scale, we've gotten a little bit off and we can't keep going the way that we are. And what she said, like I wrote down a quote, she said, nature cannot stand anymore. So let nature work for itself. We call it natural disaster, but what it really is healing. They always give the metaphor of like when you're going in to remodel a house, like you have to tear down before you can build back up. And so I think on a bigger scale, that's just what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, Mother Nature will always win,
Yeah.
and it's sadly, these things are cyclical. I mean, but especially obviously, there's plenty of natural disasters that we can talk about, but the one that's, the hot topic right now, pardon my pun, um,
Wow.
it's there people are living in a desert. Like,
Yeah.
that landscape probably wasn't meant to be inhabited the way that it is, and you've got a city of I forget how big LA is, 12 to 15 million people, so the way that the resources are, sort of divvied up amongst people, it's like, reading stories about them running out of water.
Mhm.
I mean, that's not a surprise to me. Like, there's not supposed to be that many people living in that arid desert area that they've developed into a place where a lot of people wanna live, and it's beautiful, and I understand why people wanna live there. But, I think the earth is always gonna sort of overcorrect, and
Mhm.
it's a sad reality of being a human that is inhabiting this thing that's much bigger than us.
Well,
Um,
it would be very difficult to me if I wasn't a spiritual person at all and I was watching all of the things happening. It's like, how do you not look at things like what's happened in Asheville where they've never had a hurricane situation like that or this level of fire? Like, how do you just turn a blind eye to it and say, "Oh, it's crazy times," or whatever? Like, how are we not noticing? There is something happening. Whether
yeah,
you want to talk about politics, whether you want to talk about even this revolutionary energy that I feel amongst the people where we're questioning the government, our food supply system, like gun control, all of these things, like the reason all of it's happening all at once in such an overwhelming manner is to get our attention. And we can't
yeah,
just keep not paying attention and think that it's going to go away. It's asking us to grow, it's asking us to change, it's asking us to evolve. And on a smaller scale, when I look through my life, when I'm feeling like I'm just getting annihilated and it's coming from every area, it's because the universe is like, "Yo, bitch, pay attention. We tried to get
yeah, you
we
didn't
tried to get you
listen.
with this small little lesson, and you were like, 'Nope, I'm gonna go this way anyway.'" And so here's one, here's another, and they're all the same lesson. It's like all the
Mhm.
same thing. And I really truly believe that we're being asked to somehow find a way to come together. And this community piece keeps coming into my brain of just and also like because, like I said, the 2030 piece, like, you can buy into that or you don't have to, but I think we'll probably see some more. I don't think this is going away right now. Like, I think we're gonna go through a lot of more transition. We even have a new president coming in, so we'll see what comes up with that. But I think that you have to find something to help yourself feel grounded and find peace because we're only
Mhm.
gonna be living in chaos longer. So how do you find peace among the chaos? And how do you be kind to your neighbor throughout a time where we're all struggling. There isn't just one person going through something, there is everyone going through something. So we have to come together and help support each other and hold each other up.
Yeah, well said.
Thank you. I don't even know what I said. I blacked out. Anyway, with all of that said, I would love an open conversation about that too. So if you guys have thoughts or you want to talk with us about that, we always give you the edge at velvetsedge.com, or you can slide into either of Chips and I's DMs and I'll put that in the description of this podcast. And we'll obviously also mention like we always do at the end. But this is an open conversation. Like I'm just telling you my thoughts. Take what you like, leave the rest. If you want to buy into palm readers, psychic type person, buy in. I believe her because a lot of the things she predicted happened after I left, so it was interesting. But, yeah, I think this is just a time really to, like, try to get quiet with yourself and take care of yourself and the people around you and be kind to others truly and like send love out. So, with all of that though, it is the first podcast of the year, which we always do this thing where Chip and I set an intention. And this is kind of ties into even like developing a spiritual practice because it's really tied into tapping into your own intuition and like what kind of energy you want to bring into the new year. I don't really do resolutions. Do you do that, Chip?
I mean, I used to and would fail at them, so I stopped.
Yeah, I don't find resolutions to be helpful, but what I do find to be helpful is intention setting. And so
Mhm.
last year we each set words. I kind of grappled with mine a bit. I know you had some interesting experiences with yours, and I want to touch on that for a second. And then this year, my word is completely different. And I want to talk about why we picked each of our words too.
I
So,
know, I'm excited to hear your word. We for the listeners, we seriously don't know what each other's words are
no, we
this
haven't
year.
talked about
I feel
this.
like we talked about it in advance last year,
We
but this time
did.
we're going in blind.
Well,
And I've
let's
got a
touch
little
on what
curveball.
last oh, curveball,
Okay.
wild times on the Velvet Talk
Wild.
podcast. We're getting really rowdy. Let's talk about last year's words first. Mine was discipline, and that was because I felt like I was coming out of a season of grief, if I'm being really honest, and just resetting. Like I had so many things. It was one of those times in life that I was just describing where I was getting hit from every avenue, it felt like, but it did get my attention, and I truly feel like as I've come out of it, it was such a gift, and that's always a weird thing to look back on pain and say, but I changed and I grew a lot, and I'm still changing and I'm still growing from some of these lessons, and I know that I would not have been able to be where I'm at within myself and within my relationships without all of that stuff happening. So,
Right,
I wanted to go into last year's with discipline because I felt like for me as such a big feeler, sometimes my emotions take me out. Like I'm not able to actually show up in life in a way where I feel productive or like I'm functioning. And so I was like, okay, I'm done with this kind of letting the emotions or riding my emotional waves and I'm ready to get back to some structure. And this honestly was the hardest word for me since we started doing this. I don't know that I feel like I fully fulfilled it, but I do feel like the theme was there throughout my life, like the theme of wanting to change some of my daily habits and routines. And anytime I wasn't doing that, I would get sick, I would injure my back, like something would come up where I paid a consequence almost for
right.
not paying attention to taking care of myself. And so that was where the discipline ended up being and like sort of staying stoically structured through some chaos and then still showing up and kind of trying to be a little more methodical in some of my actions. So it was I don't know. Like, I don't know that I feel like I'm looking back going, man, I really nailed that word.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
sometimes, it's a foundation to build upon. And so I'm taking that one kind of with me into this year as well. But your word was remind me?
Explore. Mine
I was
was
gonna say adventure.
explore.
Okay, explore. Tell us about
And
that.
I mean, when I chose it, I'm just a naturally curious person anyway. So I didn't know if it meant physical exploration, educational exploration, just simply like keep keep yourself open and curious
Yeah.
and those sorts of things. And I will say I kind of like looking back on the year, I feel like there's the obvious, like I traveled
A
a
ton.
ton, and some of it was for work, some of it was by choice, for fun, with friends, with family. Um, and so I think I nailed that piece of it. And I also, I definitely felt like I dated more this
I
year,
was
and I
just
was
gonna say
yeah, and
that.
I was more open to the possibilities of different people,
Yeah.
and, I don't know, I just felt like I explored a lot of things. I even, I've always wanted to this is funny, I don't know why I'm, laughing about it because it's not really that humorous, but I've always wanted to learn to play the flute, and I bought a flute last year, but I
Wait,
because of
wait,
I know,
what?
but because of
You did
my time
not tell me this.
yeah, I bought a flute, I ordered it from Amazon, and it's sitting in my
You're like
room,
Lizzo over there.
and, but I didn't do anything to learn to play it,
Okay.
so but it's a step, I have it now, it's a
Okay.
physical reminder of something that I want to do, and I do think once I say what my word is coming up, there is a way that it can, like you said, last year was foundational and I'm gonna build upon it. And maybe the flute is one of the things that sort of threads the needle there for me.
Can I ask questions about the flute?
Sure, yeah.
Have you ever played a flute?
Yes, but
Okay.
not well. I mean, I know how to I can make the sounds, I just don't know the finger. Like, I can make it makes a noise,
But you never
which is the hard part.
I played it in high school, oddly. Did I ever
Y
did I ever
No, I
tell
didn't know that. Maybe
I
you
was
can be my flute teacher.
would you die?
My gosh, maybe
It's
we
been
should
a
have
minute,
we
so
should write a flute soundtrack for our a podcast.
yeah, I would die. I mean, we so basically in my high school, your freshman year, you was required that you played an instrument. And so
Okay.
I played flute. I guess I did it freshman and sophomore, maybe. I don't know. I'll have to ask my mom. She probably remembers more than me. But yeah, like I was not very good. But it's fun. I mean, I guess it's fun.
Yeah.
I just also am like, what drew you to the flute? Like what inspired?
So when I was in even prior to elementary school, for some reason, my grandparents gave me a trumpet one year. Like, I didn't
Okay.
ask for a trumpet, and I just had a trumpet. So when I got to the age, which was elementary school, where we could start taking band, I wanted to join the band, and my mom was like, "Well, you have a trumpet." And, my mom's kinda cheap, and she was, like, not gonna buy me anything else when I had an
Yeah,
instrument that could be played.
sure.
So, I was a trumpet player, and I was actually really
Okay.
good, and I was first seed and stuff.
Isn't that
And
kinda fucked up, though? They make you sit in the order in your seats
yeah,
of how good
best
you
to
are.
worst. And yeah, you're, like, more on display too, like, you're,
Right.
like, closer to the front of the stage. But I was really good at it, but I loved my sister had a friend who was a flute player, and I would be like, "Can I play your flute?" And I just love the sound of it. It's so
Yeah,
whimsical.
like trilling. Do you know
Yeah,
what that is?
it's like a and it's not easy to do just to make the
No.
sound. It's a very
Yeah.
hard thing to do. Um, and I just don't think like I was laughing one day. I was probably stoned, and I was like, "There needs to be more flute in popular music. I'm gonna learn the flute." And I told Elle, I was like, "If I learn the flute, you're gonna let me play it on one of my songs." And she
Oh my
agreed.
god.
And then I
She
was like,
probably
I
will.
ordered my flute. Yeah, she probably would. So, one of my goals this year is to find a teacher so I can start learning because there's a lot of buttons on. I played an instrument that had 3 buttons.
Mhm. Is it called
And
buttons?
I don't
Is
know what they're
that
called.
okay.
Keys. They're keys,
Yeah,
maybe.
keys
I mean,
maybe.
I don't know what any of it's called. So
Mhm.
I'm sure there's like a 95-year-old woman out here somewhere in Nashville that'll teach me how to play the
I'm sure
flute.
there is someone in Nashville, of
Yeah.
all this city, this huge city of musicians that can teach you how to
Hmm.
play the flute.
Yeah.
I just
So
picture you body rolling. Chip is a really good body roller for anyone who doesn't know.
God, I should
Body
body roll
rolling
down on
while
Broadway playing a
playing the
f
flute.
yes. I mean, I could do that. For
It's
those of you who
very
can't
big Lizzo
Kelly's only when they
energy.
can see me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna bring that Lizzo energy to my flute.
he's body
She went to
rolling
Juilliard
down.
for the flute.
I know. I actually have always loved that she incorporates it because it's such a mix of classical with this whatever pop, R&B, rap vibe that she does.
Well, it was also I mean, for early on in her career, it was a good sort of attention getter, It was
Sure,
like
yeah.
because she's like this big woman that's like you just don't
Mhm.
expect it, and then she just she
Yeah,
crushes the
yeah.
flute.
She's really
So,
good.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, do you wanna go into your word? Since we're kinda letting you flow
Yeah.
right now, do you wanna go into your
So
word? I wanna know now how the flute's
so
gonna be
I hope I mean,
incorporated.
I'm kind of bending the rule here, but my word for the year is no/no. And it's the
Okay.
word no as in NO/KNOW.
Oh.
And I landed on that. I've been thinking about no for like NO for a long time. Because I am a yes person, I'm a people pleaser. And I need to be better about saying no to things that don't serve me.
Mhm,
And that can be a night out, as simple as that. Like, I just want to stay home. I want
mhm,
to read more this year. And I definitely I got I had my fun last year. I
mhm.
explored, I did a lot of fun shit and I spent a lot of money. And I think this year I want to spend more time with myself,
Hmm.
and getting to know things and getting to know people better.
Mhm,
And so that's where the KNOW came
mhm,
in. So I think one of the NO scratches the back of the KNOW. Like by me setting boundaries and saying no and being very intentional about the things that I say yes to and where I give my time and energy will open the door for me to learn more and learn more about the people that I love. 'Cause, I mean,
Mm.
even, like, not my closest friends, because I obviously know a ton about them, but, like, there are people in town that I know, and I really like them, but, like, I couldn't tell you their husband or wife's name or their kid's name. It's like, I just, like, I know them, but, like, I wanna know them, and, I just joined. I mean, I'm doing a trial thing. There's a new thing in Nashville called Lolu, and it's
Oh.
a sauna cold plunge
Oh,
place,
yes. There's a
and
couple
they
of those
have
opening here.
it's yeah, it's kind of amazing, and if they wanna sponsor us, please give me a membership. I'll talk about it every fucking day. But it's a 30-person sauna
Yeah.
and then, like, a 10-person cold plunge. It's like the biggest hot tub but it's cold you've ever seen.
Okay.
And then in between them, there's a shower, like a communal shower room, because they want you to shower in between. And then there's this like other room where there's like tea, cold water, hot water for tea, and you're supposed to
Hmm.
mingle and chat. And then there's an outside area that's useful when it's nice out. And that, like, part of it is that they want you to communicate. And I'm so used to, like, when I go in the sauna, I don't want anybody talking to me. Like, I just want to
Right.
sit there and sweat and meditate and do whatever. But, like, everyone's chit-chatting, and today I went this morning, and I met, like, this girl named Serena, and her friend was visiting from Dallas. His name was Terrence. Oh, and when I walked into the locker room, this guy pops in, he goes, "Are you the other Chip that's here?" He had heard me check in, and when he checked in, they had said my name, and he was like, "It's so rare that I get to meet a Chip." So he wanted to meet me, and my natural, like, reaction to that is like, "Shut up, leave me alone, like, I'm not
Yeah.
here for this, like, I'm shirtless, I don't wanna talk to you."
Right.
And then I was like, "No, lean in, like, there might be somebody here that's really fucking cool that you want to know." And I just reminded myself the word is no.
Hmm.
So I was like, "I'm gonna lean in, I'm gonna talk to these people." So, the way that the flute comes in is maybe by the end of this year, I will know how to play it.
I love this.
Yeah,
Also, what's pinging me about what you just said about that place is what you just described as community. So
yeah,
it's literally, I don't know why that is such a sense that I have, but I really do feel like we are supposed to stop isolating. We're supposed to stop being mean to each other. We're supposed to look to each other for each of our skill sets and like lean into our own authentic selves. And I love that I love the way you're doing no and no with the two
yeah,
different definitions because it's first of all very you, but it's also but they both work. Like the
right,
knowledge piece of the no with a K and then the no to know where you need to set boundaries and also spend time with yourself. I love
yeah,
that.
mhm,
Wow.
thanks,
Good for you.
thanks. Yes. And what's
Um
yours?
Mine is a little bit simpler maybe, but I just keep, I think I have this overriding sense, like I said earlier, that we're going to continue on in through this cycle. And typically what I've started learning is that whatever's happening on a macro level, like in the big scale of things, when I really scale down to just my life, there are similar lessons happening on a micro level. And so for me, the word that I really want to lean into is just to trust. It's trust. That's my word this year. And that sounds really simple, but for me, that would involve detaching more,
Yeah,
stopping trying to control things, stopping
mhm,
trying to micromanage and make things go the way that I want, and to trust the process.
right.
And when I do those things, my life is so much better. It's much more peaceful. I find myself experiencing things that I wouldn't have ever even dreamed up, because I think sometimes our brains are actually a lot smaller than we think, and the universe is so much more powerful than we think. And so when I'm trusting and I just trust the process, I show up and I do the next right thing, my life seems to go a lot better. Things seem to
Yeah.
work out in magnificent ways. And I'm shown such beauty from so many different levels that my experience has become grander. And I just feel like that's maybe what's gonna be happening on a bigger scale. You're smiling at me right now, and it's throwing me
I love this. I love you, like, letting go.
Oh, the letting go. Yes.
Yeah,
I just think I'm to this place where I'm like, I don't really know what else I could do with that, like,
yeah,
without just leaning into that. And, I've practiced it a lot over the years in different areas of my life, but I just really feel like yeah, I just want to stop absorbing so much negativity that's happening in our world and looking at it as good or bad and staying curious and just going, I know this is going to lead us somewhere good. Just that being the overriding sense. Like, I know this is going to lead somewhere good, whether it's super painful right now or not. Ultimately, everything is always for my highest good, always for your highest good, always for all of our highest good. And so, how do we lean more into that energy of it rather than being like, this is so bad. Oh my God. This is so, like, I don't know. We just label things like that. I really do believe that. And I really do. And so I really want to just trust the process. So
Yeah, I mean, look,
learn.
it's w humanity, uh, even our generation, we've all experienced fucking awful things and
Mhm,
lived through awful things, and, if you're lucky, you come out on the other side of it still alive,
mhm,
and you realize how little control you have
mhm,
over anything, and, actually, oftentimes, how little most things matter.
mhm.
Um Other than love, and if you
Yeah.
can sort of let go of the trappings of thinking that you can control and I mean, it's funny because, I do believe that you can create the life that you want, but I don't think that you can control everything in that life,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So
Totally.
if you can let go of the idea of being in control, it makes for a much more peaceful existence.
Mhm.
As long as you are willing and able to accept the fact that bad things happen, like, car accidents are called car accidents, like, very few people go out and try to run someone over or wreck their car or whatever, but bad things happen, and hopefully you live through them and you become a
Yeah.
better driver or whatever. So, I mean, I think it's most people don't trust. That's why there is so much hate in the world, and I know that your word's not specifically about, like, "I'm just gonna be willy-nilly and just trust everybody." You're more trusting the
No.
process,
Oh,
but I
I
think
trust
that
very few people at this point.
right, right. But, I mean, look, I think in leaning into trust, you also have to trust that most people are good, like, in
Well,
general, most people are good.
yeah, for
Um
me, it's more trust my own intuition
Right.
and, um, yeah, like, okay, I'll talk about a specific experience. So, I'm in a relationship now, I've talked about that for a while, and, I think as human beings, we go through certain experiences in our life, and the reason I'm telling this story is just specifically because I've been talking about it a little more on the podcast, and so it's kind of relevant at the time. But, I have had a lot of betrayal in relationship, on a lot of scales in, the public eye with a friendship, in romantic relationships. Um, yeah, I was in a very, very bad pattern of dating people that were not trustworthy for me, and it was just toxic situations. And I don't say any of that to say any like I'm so sick of, oh, fuck them, they fucked me over, whatever. They taught me things, big things.
Right, right,
And um for me, that came with really damaging my ability to trust people because there were a lot of things that happened over the years where I was how I mean, I felt very betrayed. And then I got into this relationship. And of course, when you get into a relationship, it doesn't mean all your shit goes away, right? Like where we are, all of our shit comes too. And so, as much work as I've done around all of those things, at the beginning of my relationship, I struggled with certain things coming up about me having a hard time trusting, or immediately if I get hit with a trigger, my head goes to what happened to me in the past. And one of the most healing experiences for me has been learning to assume that my partner's intention is good and that he is not who I've dated in the past. And
right,
immediately when I change looking at his intention differently and staying curious, we have had the most healing conversations I've ever had with the man in my life. We have been able to go deeper than I've ever gone in another relationship. Our intimacy feels higher, and that's not because our relationship is perfect, but it's because we go in looking at each other as they are coming from a place of good and with good intention, and not I need to defend myself. I'm in threat, like it's just, it's crazy what our brains do to keep us in safety, and so you immediately go to your old things, like, "I don't trust because of all these things that happened," but what if I go into this situation and look at it and go, "There's nothing this person has done to break my trust, so what if I ask him what's going on and we talk about it and it's healing," or whatever. I guess all I'm saying is, I don't know that I trust people necessarily because people are human and we all make mistakes, but I do think there's a reframe to trust myself and I trust the universe. And I do think there are a lot of people and the most people in my life at this point, I do trust. I
Yeah,
wouldn't have them in my life. So
right.
I don't know if that answered it. I kind of
I think
rambled,
it
but
did. I think it did. I think that was a great example too. I almost said his name.
no, no, no. We keep those
No,
things
no,
on the
no.
low down around here these days. Learned my lesson the hard way on that shit. Speaking of not trusting people.
Right.
Um Anyway, so that's yeah, and I just again, it's like I think that it's by 2025, 5 years later, and for me, kinda my shit started hitting the fan in 2019, and I'm just tired, and so it's like, if I keep trying to fucking figure this out, I'm gonna tucker myself out.
Right.
So, what
And
if I
some things
just
aren't meant to be figured out,
no, it's just sort of
like, they
like
just are.
no, in one of my 12-step programs, the woman says, "Figure it out" is not one of our slogans, which, like, there's all these slogans in
Oh
12 steps,
god.
but "Figure it out" isn't one of them, and that's one of the things that I've always wanted to do, like, I wanna know all the information, and I wanna figure out why people are doing what they're doing, and, it doesn't
I
get
love
me
when people are
anywhere.
like, "Well, I love that you've got life figured out." It's like such a, like, impossibility, which makes it such a, like, a cutting statement, like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
of
since
course,
you've
because
got it all
nobody
figured
does.
out."
Well,
Right? Because
right.
nobody it's impossible.
Right.
It's impossible.
Yeah, but just stop trying to figure it out too and just going, there is a bigger plan. I really do believe that, whether it takes until 2030 or not. But like, there is a new era dawning. And if you don't feel that, I don't know what world you're living in because shit feels like it's changing to me every day. And I feel like people are waking up. We're on a different journey than we've been on in the past. And so,
Yeah.
I don't know the way to go on that journey. That's all I know. I'm learning as I
Yeah.
go, and I think the rest of us are, or most of us are. And so we have to trust in something, and that's where your spiritual practice or whatever comes in. But yeah, if I keep trying to go, especially the same ways that I've done in the past, it's not going to work
It's the
anymore.
definition of insanity.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep showing up. I'm going to keep doing my work. I'm going to keep doing my part. And I'm going to trust that there's a point to everything happening and that it's always for my highest good.
Yeah, and look, it doesn't mean you can't question things,
Oh, I mean,
like
this is on a good day, I'll have this kind of trust. And on a bad day, I'm going to be like, fuck it. I'm in
I don't
control.
trust
I'm driving the
anybody.
bus.
I trust that this is real fucked up.
Yeah, and the universe will slap me back down and I'll go,
Right.
"Fuck, all right, I gotta go
Yeah.
back to that mentality." It's a cycle, right? Like, you do the best
Totally.
you can, and that's just my intention for the year, to bring myself back to that. Even when I, like, get off course, I wanna come back to, you can trust the process, take it day by day, what's your next right step?
Yeah. I'm
Mhm.
curious if any listeners have words of the year, if this even if you don't, if this inspires you to have one,
Yeah.
to post and tag us or something so that we know.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like last year a lot of people did that. You can always DM me, but I love that about also sharing it with your followers. If you're a listener and you have a word, that's a great idea to put it in your story of like your intention for the year because you don't know who you'll inspire to do the same. And then tag us so we can see it too. Because
It is a lot easier, I think, than resolutions.
well, resolutions come from a place of shame. Someone taught me that a long time ago. It comes from a place of lack. Like you're telling yourself you aren't doing something, you're not good at something, you're overweight, you're
Right.
not good enough at work. Like it's all shame based. And so it really is more punishing than inspiring. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if you set a word, it's putting positivity and positive energy into something and just setting an intention. And those are important for us, I do believe. Like our
Yeah.
hearts need to feel centered into something. We need to have a higher purpose. So know and know and
Trust.
trust. Mhm.
I love it.
There we
Love
go.
it.
All right. Well, you guys, you can hit us up at the edge at velvetsedge.com. If you do want to hit us up on Instagram, I am at Velvet's Edge. I have been a little absent. that was because I needed a break for the holidays, and then also these fires. I just feel weird posting about stuff when tragedy is happening. I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't focus on, "Hey, let me plug my podcast." Like, it just feels
Right.
so insensitive. So, we'll be back to posting, once this LA stuff kinda gets contained and people are safe and things like that. But, you can always hit me up on there. It's at Velvet's Edge. Chip,
I'm at Chip Dorsch. It's ChipDorsch.
as you guys go into the weekend and you're living on the edge and setting your intentions, I hope you always
Mhm.
remember to
Act
that's
casual.
a very trust-like thing to act
Yes,
casual, isn't
it really
it?
is.
Ooh,
That
I
is
love that.
yeah. Trust, trust, trust. No, no,
Act
no.
casual. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.